Welcome back. This is episode 101. Let's keep this thing going. I'm really enjoying talking with a lot of great artists, and today is absolutely no exception here in springtime 2023. Is with Parker Gispert. He had fronted a band called The Wigs and has done a lot of great solo work. He's one of many people who are in Nashville. And over in Nashville, they have a really wonderful creative community. So they get together and just support each other. It's a lot different than those other markets. We always touch on that every time I'm talking with somebody in Nashville. They just talk about how great it is and how supportive everybody is of one another. This is absolutely a fun interview. We spoke about connections here in the Atlanta, Georgia area and everything that has really inspired him, including music from the 1990s, if you can remember that era. Anywho, enjoy. You're in your basement. Where is your basement? Where are you located this morning?
I'm in East Nashville, Tennessee.
A
How
lot
about
of
yourself?
guests. Yeah, a lot of people. I'm here in Atlanta.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Nice. Where at?
I live about 20 minutes north of Atlanta. I'm in Peachtree Corners.
Oh my God, too funny. I grew up on Holcomb Bridge Road. My parents still live there in Roswell, Alpharetta area, but like, right next to Peachtree Corners pretty much.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm up that way all the time. So, did you go to Roswell High School?
I didn't. I went to Westminster, which was a little
Yeah.
bit of a commute. But I went to Esther Jackson Elementary. And my parents still live in Horseshoe Bend, which is over there. I
Oh
don't know if
yeah,
you
I
know.
go that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Small world.
Small
Wow.
world. Too funny, man. Did you grow up in the Atlanta area too?
I came here from Cleveland, Ohio, more than 3 decades ago. And so I'm practically a native. You know how that is in the Atlanta area, like nobody's from here.
It's
So
true.
you were probably a rarity, but then you went off to pursue your musical dreams. So growing up, you must have like really been into this, being at Jackson and Westminster. Did you get into music very, very young, or was this like way when you were way older?
No, I got into it pretty young. I would say maybe less music specifically. I got into performing. I just liked an audience. I was doing plays in
Yeah.
school. I was singing in choir and taking piano lessons and doing all that kind of stuff. But I'd say I started pursuing it seriously more high school, later in junior high. I got my first guitar when I was maybe 14. And then that's when I really started getting focused.
Yeah, that's when you really wake up to it. So who inspired you around that age to get into it?
I'd say maybe Bob Dylan. We were doing a junior high chorus concert, and me and a few of my friends were singing a choreographed dance to "Happy Together" by the Turtles.
That's a good
Which
one to
was,
do.
well, which is fine enough. But I was in seventh grade, and there was an eighth grader who came out after me, and he was playing acoustic guitar and singing Bob Dylan songs, and it was just like, man, this is so much cooler than my choreographed dance. I need to get it together. But I'd say mainly grunge rock that was on the radio at the time. I was a child of the 90s, so all that stuff made a big impression on me. And then Dylan, the two of those.
Yeah. So you grew up with the old radio station 99X, which has recently returned to the area.
I
That was
did.
pretty big. Yeah.
I did. So that was huge for me. And in going to Westminster, I had a commute every morning and every day after school. And with traffic, it would take about an hour. So I would listen to the Morning X on the radio, just sitting in carpool to and from school. Really absorbed all that stuff that they were playing. That's like the core of my introduction to music in a way, I gotta say.
Yeah, yeah. Being here, and I remember when they started, it was Power 99, and they turned it. And for those who don't know, and there are probably a lot of radio stations that were like that all across the US and all these markets, but 99X was, much different. And I remember when they started and they were like, we're going to do just alternative. I remember them advertising that at the second Lollapalooza, which they had over at Lakewood, which
Yeah,
is outdoor amphitheater.
yeah.
And yeah, I love the logo, and then like was the beginning of grunge, and they really got into it. And then all these great bands, which is very evident on your latest project, how much they influenced you. Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, all of them. It was just a really unique time that 99X was going through.
It's true. It's funny trying to describe it to folks younger than me. But it was this great time, I thought, where like some of the most popular music in the world commercially also really spoke to me artistically, like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and all that stuff. It really, um, I thought it was music with integrity that was also, yeah, blasted everywhere and everybody knew it. And, you could go to school and talk about it with your friends and we were all listening to the same thing. Um, it wasn't so scattered as it is now with streaming, and it wasn't so like isolated and niche based. There was still like a something that we were all tuning into to discuss.
Yeah, there was a lot of common ground with
Yes,
terrestrial radio back then. And,
yeah,
a lot of us could relate to it. Now it's just like, it's so different. You're competing in a way different space.
yes, yes,
Totally is. I love that about Nirvana. And when I first stumbled on them, it was like, this isn't heavy metal. It's not this disorganized sound. It's like it's hard edge, but organized in a way. It's just very catchy. It still has the pop elements, but just like it had some just serious gusto to it. So it seems like it's inspired you on your latest release, which is now available streaming everywhere. If you could let us all know where we can get your latest project.
yeah. Golden Years is my new album, and it's on all the streaming services. And you can also get a vinyl or a CD copy from myself at parkergispert.com, or from the record label newwestrecords.com. But yeah, definitely some heavy Nirvana influence on the new album. Obviously, a giant fan, and to your point, I read his journals
Mm.
when they came out, and I was revisiting them when I was writing this album. And yeah, it's super deliberate what Nirvana is. It's a very focused, very intentional project for Kurt. I think some folks might not realize how focused he was and how clear of a vision he had for everything from lyrics to directing music videos to what their t-shirts looked like. It was all really intentionally by design.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which I
Yeah.
loved, and that inspired me on my record too. It's from my point of view, it's a very deliberate, methodically thought out record.
So Golden Years, you recorded all up in Nashville. Did you do it in the same studio, or and throughout COVID, a lot of people were just sending each other files and not doing it so much live in the studio?
Yeah, we were doing it live in the studio. I guess we were recording it in spring, summer. It was May 2021. So, people were vaccinated, and it felt comfortable. It was kind of past that time where everybody's a little freaked out. So, yeah, we were all in the studio live in Nashville and had a great collection of people in there. The producer, Roger Mutino, legendary producer,
Oh,
mixer, um, and and then my band, collection of folks from in town who I've known for a long time. So there's good synergy with everybody. Everybody works really well together.
yeah. Roger's legendary work with Lou Reed
That's
and a
right.
couple of other big names. Really, really must have a great ear because it sounds great. This is a great new project, and it's
Thank
been
you so
out
much.
since September 2022.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, you could really feel it in there. And mastered by John Baldwin, which I
That's
think is
right.
a pretty big name up there too. So were you just like, how did that come together? How long did it take to record and then for them to master and get it all out for release?
So, I guess it took me about 6 months to write the record. And then from there, I went in with the band, maybe 3 times. We did a rehearsal, ran through the songs, and then we went into the studio with Roger and we recorded the guitar, bass, and drums for all the songs in 2 days. And then I sang all the songs in one day. And then we spent 2 days on lead guitar, 2 days on background vocals and piano. Um, and then that was it for tracking. So that's, I guess, maybe about 8 days for tracking. And then, and then from there, we kind of just lived with it. We had some rough mixes on the board, but Roger and I would just stay in contact. And, I would leave for a week. We'd listen to where we were at, make a few tweaks. He'd leave for a couple weeks. We'd come back, make some tweaks. We'd go into the studio, listen together. We just sort of tweaked it on and off for maybe, I don't know how much time that was, maybe a couple months, but it wasn't every day. It was sort of just like you're just living with it and listening to it and tweaking it. And then I would say once we were done with that, it got mastered probably in November, like into the fall. John Baldwin mastered it, and then it was done.
Yeah, yeah, great title. Where does the title come from? It's from the title track, obviously, but how did that get inspired? And why did you name the album Golden Years, taken from the title track?
Yeah, I think originally I was going to call it Rock and Roll, which is
Another song.
another song on the album, and there's a lot of albums called Rock and Roll.
Right.
The first album, the first solo album of mine is called Sunlight Tonight, and I made a real point to, look up, is there any other album called Sunlight Tonight? Search on Spotify or Apple Music, and it's like, no, there's not. Is there any other song called Life in the Goldilocks Zone or Do Some Country? And there wasn't. I made a real point to have titles that no one else had. And I flipped the script on that with this record. So, yeah, Rock and Roll or Golden Years or some of these titles are titles that have been used before, but I wasn't afraid of that. And originally, Rock and Roll was the lead off track on the album. So, and then I flipped the track listing, and Golden Years became the first track on the album. And it just felt right. It just, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
um, I tried to come up with a title that wasn't a song title, and I failed. So then I just ended up going with the first song on the album.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to go with the gut, not overthink anything.
It's
It's just
true. It's true. I came up with some not good ones when I was going off script.
yeah, it's totally okay to use titles that have been used before. I mean, it's been happening in the mainstream world for years now, like Just the Way You Are. It was originally Billy Joel's song, then Bruno Mars used that title, and there's so many examples. So, Golden Years, yeah, I'm sure there have been some David Bowie tribute bands using that. It's okay as long as you got your unique voice to that title. So, I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. It's and that's good to have that as the lead off single. Isn't rock and roll kind of a longer track?
It's it's not longer per se, but it's near the back of the album, and it maybe didn't end up being like a focus track. And to your point about Bowie too, it's like I don't mind that association either.
Yeah.
It's like if it was Walking on the Sun and it reminded someone of like a Smash Mouth song or something. No offense, whatever. Like maybe that would be not the association that I was comfortable with, but if someone associates the title with David Bowie, it's like that's cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And it's not like a disappointment when you go to play it. They're like, this is a great song. This isn't a
Thanks.
cover of Bowie. It's like
Right.
I think Maroon 5 had a song like, I was like, oh my gosh, is it a cover of that Phil Collins song? No, it's not. It's their own and they made it their own.
Nice. Nice.
Nobody has a lock on an actual title. That's totally fine. But yeah, 9 tracks on here. Really great. Coming up with lyrics, how does that strike you? Are you doing lyrics first? Do you have the melody in your head? Does it all come at once?
Um, Normally melody first. I'll kind of write down things that I want to write a song about, conceptually. And I'll sort of look at like the 9 tracks and say like, here are the things that I'd like to cover. And I'm always writing lyrics, but it's rare that those end up in a song. Um, so I'd say it was a little bit all over the place on this record. Definitely melody first, but some of the songs I more or less wrote lyrics and music at the same time, which doesn't usually happen for me. Um, Evil Euphoria, I more or less just wrote that song in one sitting. Or You and I Forever, more or less just wrote that in one sitting. But for the most part, it's typically a melody, and then I got to go back and think about what the song's about and write the lyrics to that rhythm.
Yeah. Evil Euphoria has a great riff. How was that inspired? That really stood out to me. Just an amazing guitar riff.
Thank you so much. I think what we were talking about earlier with 90s, um, I was listening to just a generic 90s playlist on Apple Music, and it had all these really well-known songs from the 90s on it, 90s rock. And I guess an obvious example would be something like Inner Sandman, where it's like it starts with the riff on an acoustic guitar, and then the band cranks in, and you just play the same riff but loud. I was basically trying to do that. So I had the loud riff to Evil Euphoria, but then I just stripped it back for the intro and made it soft, and so that it sort of has like a different dynamic to it when the band comes in rocking with me.
So assembling all the musicians you work with, everybody in Nashville, people that you've gotten to know over the years.
Yeah, the drummer John Kent was the newest to the equation. He moved here right before the pandemic from Texas, and we got connected through a mutual friend. He played with Ben Queller on the first couple Ben Queller albums. Him and Ben had a band when they were teenagers called Radish. And then John went on to play with the Lemonheads and is a great singer-songwriter in his own right. So I started with John, and then the bass player is a session musician who was in Deer Tick for a long time. And the pianist, Thayer Serrano, she's an old friend of mine from Athens, Georgia, where I used to live. She's played with all Athens bands like of Montreal or Drive By Truckers or Camper Van Beethoven and Cracker, and really close friend of mine. And Evan Scott Penza is the lead guitar player who's featured on a lot of these songs. There's a lot of great guitar solos and lead guitar parts. And yeah, Evan toured with me a little bit on my first solo album, and it was fun to have lead guitar. I've been playing rock music for about 20 years, but it weirdly have never had a lead guitarist. So that was fun to, when I was writing the album, to leave space for his skill set. I know what his abilities are, and I could kind of say like, all right, let's leave a bar here. Let's leave this section at the end for Evan to do his thing. And that was really exciting.
Yeah, that is. So did you go to University of Georgia? You were in Athens or just basically hung out there and got into the music scene?
No, I went to University of Georgia, got a philosophy degree, and but I went there to play music. It was kind of a cover, keep the parents happy, going to college. But I really went there knowing the Athens legacy. I was really into the Elephant Six collective in Athens. Obviously REM and B-52s and that different generation of pylon and all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of looked around at other schools and just thought like Athens gives me the best chance to start my musical journey. So let's go there.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great atmosphere, Athens, and has been over 40 years now. I think
Yeah.
there's a documentary I always wanted to see on that, that was about Athens and its music scene. It came out, I think, probably in the 80s. It's
Athens,
about the
Georgia, Inside Out.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
wonderful. I just watched it. I've seen it a ton of times, but I just saw it with my girlfriend a few weeks ago. It's like, you got to watch this. This is, you know, must see TV for music of the alternative era.
Oh yeah, it definitely the basis for that too, and that probably inspired others. But back in the 80s, I remember because I went to school in Athens, Ohio. I was like, "What's Athens,
Right.
Georgia like?" This is really a huge mystery to me.
Yeah.
And I stumbled on REM, and I remember Life's Rich pageant when that I totally got into. I was like, "This," I'd never heard anything like that. It just,
Yeah.
really got me into it. I moved down here the same year B-52's released Cosmic Thing, and
Wow.
that was just exploded. It's just like that whole thing just that's eventually what became the grunge movement and Seattle and all of that in the 99X.
It's true. Yeah. Life's Rich pageant was the one for me also. That's the one that got me into REM. And yeah, that's funny. Athens, Ohio. I thought about going to school there myself. And the Afghan wigs are from around that area, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's really, another unusual town in Southeast Ohio, and it was great for communications and video production, which I got into. And a great
Nice.
music scene there too.
Heck yeah. Nice.
Yeah, very, very inspirational. So you were playing live a lot back then. Do you plan on getting into more live performance now that we're somewhat well out of COVID?
Yeah. So Sunday night, I'll kick off a tour. Um, it's about a month long tour. I will get in my car by myself and I will drive to Memphis. Then I'll go to like Austin, San Antonio, down to San Diego, LA, San Francisco, up to Seattle, down through Boise, Salt Lake City, Denver. So I cover a lot of ground out there, and it'll be a solo tour. So it'll just be me and a guitar on stage playing stripped down versions of the songs, but it still rocks. And I can talk a little bit in between the songs, and it's a cool show. It's different than the rock band, but um, it it's something that I started doing in recent years is doing the solo touring thing. It's just way more economical. It just makes a lot more sense. It's hard to pay for a band and pay for hotel rooms and whatever the heck when you're gone for a month. So, but yeah, I'm playing a good amount of shows and I'm hitting. I think I'm playing pretty much every night. So I got about 25-ish shows that I'm going to be ripping through starting on Sunday.
And that's Sunday, March 26th. By the time we get this out, will probably be like during your tour. So
Okay, cool.
like April of 2023, just for the time capsule here. So you're
Okay,
gonna be in
cool.
all these cities. You're driving all this way?
I am. Yes, I drive every mile. I play all the shows, sell the merch. I
Wow.
do one man show.
That's really cool. Now, what kind of merch can we see this on your website too? You got
Yeah,
t-shirts, buttons, all that fun stuff.
I do. I just introduced some hats,
Cool.
which is exciting. But yeah, the merch is funny, man. It's really fun for me. I grew up just loving band t-shirts and I mean, even albums at this point are almost like a t-shirt-esque item. It's almost like a novelty for some people. I can't tell you how many vinyl I sell, and someone will say, like, I don't even have a record player, but this is so cool. It's like, all right. Um, but but yeah, I get into the merch. It's really fun.
How much vinyl do you have? A lot of people are not like getting into vinyl right now because it's kind of expensive. So are you able to press that many copies?
I am, yeah. I actually sell a good amount of vinyl. So I'll go out on the road with, I don't know, maybe 100 esque, and then you run out and you order more from the record label. Um, but but yeah, I sell a fair amount of vinyl. I still print CDs, which is a really niche demographic. I always joke I can see the CD buyer in line. You can just sort of like look at the merch line and be like, that guy's going to buy a CD.
Yeah.
Um, and I love CDs. I think they sound wonderful, and I love listening to them in my car. But they've faded a little bit. Vinyl's growing, and CDs are really dropping off.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that. And vinyl is just so cool because you could hold it. It's big enough that's got, great artwork if you choose to put that together with your vinyl package. So, and then the lyric sheets. That's the thing I always miss, like going to the record stores and, picking up vinyl. Turtles was a big store here when I first came. Yeah, they were phasing out vinyl in favor of CDs going into from the 80s to the 90s. But yeah, it's great to see vinyl coming back.
It's true. I used to go to the Turtles that was closer to Peachtree Corners, like near Spalding.
Yeah.
I bought my first cassette ever there, which was Weird Al Yankovic, Alapalooza. But yeah, Turtles tokens at birthday parties and whatever. I love Turtles, man. I miss that. That's one of the other things that is just missing in modern culture to me is the whole record store experience. I learned so much about music from employees at local record stores and just like sifting through stuff, listening to what they're playing in the shop. I really, I know that there's still plenty of record stores and it's growing every year, actually, in recent years. But, it's just one thing where sometimes I'll hope that we just sort of look at the big picture and say, you know what? It was better then. Let's just go back to that because it was so much cooler. And
Yeah.
I miss it. I miss it.
It's an experience. And where I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, there was this neighborhood called Coventry. And we used to go, and it was just the smell of the place. It was, I think one of the record stores was like in a basement. They had like two record stores on that road. And it's just like, yeah, it's so cool. Maybe they were burning incense in there or something. It just like was so neat just to flip through all the vinyl. But like here, there was Wax and Facts and Wuxtree. Those
Yeah,
really cool places, independent stores, which I really, there are a couple left, and hopefully they are growing again. It's a great experience.
it's true. Yeah, Athens or Atlanta, yes, Wax and Facts. So great. And God, what's the other one that's in Little 5 Points that I'm blanking on right now?
Yeah. Is
That I
that
love
Wax
so
and
much.
Facts? Yeah, there's a few in
Uh,
there.
Dang it. But yeah, in Athens we had Low Yo-Yo stuff and Wuxtree, and then we had a School Kids Records, which was a little bit of a regional chain. There were like a few of them in college towns, but I'd say like a pretty big musical moment for me. There was this band, the Glands from Athens, that I loved. And I got to Athens and I went into School Kids Records, and their lead singer was behind the counter selling me albums. And it just blew my mind. As a high schooler or whatever, you just think of the people that you listen to as like untouchable
Yeah. Yeah.
people. And it was like, this guy's out here, owns a record store, and I could ask him questions about, what replacements album I should buy, or, if I'm gonna get one Tom Petty record, What's the One, or whatever the
Yeah.
heck,
Right, right.
and I had someone who I really respected musically, like guiding me on this journey. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool.
It's nice to have, yeah, somebody like that. Yeah, if you really want to get into a certain artist, somebody who can really suggest, yeah, what's their, the album to get and then work from there. So it's nice to have experts around.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, gosh. So yeah, a lot of good songs on here. 9 songs. You have a favorite out of this collection, or it's just basically they're all your children and you treat them equally?
They're all my children, and I treat them equally. It's I would say anything that I ever put on a record with the Wigs or as a solo guy, it's like if you don't love it, there's no reason to put it out. It always bothered me, still does, when I talk to an artist and I'll say like, oh man, I love that song or whatever, and they're sort of like, oh man, you know, I mean, I love REM, but like, you'll hear Michael Stipe say like, oh, like Stand, I hate that song or something, and you're like, why'd you put it on the album? I love that song, and it's like sad to hear an artist like not like one of their own songs. I don't know. I just never have really understood that why you put something on that you don't love, but whatever.
Yeah. Probably at the time, it's was like, oh, we got to have a real hit on here. So, and then
Right.
you got it, then it gets so overplayed and you're so sick of doing it. And I'm sure a lot of artists go through that. It's like, but you have to do it. The audience came here to hear that.
It's true. It's true.
You pigeonhole yourself. But Golden Years has a video out there, and we could see that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can see it on my YouTube channel. You just search Parker Gispert Golden Years, or if you just want to go to my website, parkergispert.com, I got the videos on there, and yeah, there's one for Golden Years, there's one for Evil Euphoria, and there's a couple from my first solo album as well.
You enjoy doing music videos? A lot of artists like, they're like, I'm lukewarm. I work so hard on the song, got it down to the final mix. I go out and play it live and everything. Now I got to do this concept music video. Remember a lot of artists in the 80s saying, I just don't want to have to deal with this, but you got to. It's part of the whole selling this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in VH1 MTV era, so I loved seeing a music video. And, when I think of some of my favorite songs from that time, I can see the music video in my mind. They live together. Um, so I think I love having them as a piece. I always do get a little nervous, like when I'm actually shooting it, it's just a little more uncomfortable. The Wigs, my band started 20 years ago, but I'd say, and I've played hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of concerts, but I've shot 10 music videos, so it's just a part of the process that you're not used to doing so much of. And, it only happens every few years you shoot one. And then, like I said, I know how strong of an association it is. So I really want it to be great, and I want it to be, serving the song. And so I put a lot of pressure on it, but once it's there, I'm super happy to have it, and I love both the videos I did for this record.
Yeah, who did you get to direct that, and what's the concept of that? It looks great. It looked like it took some time to do some effects and to edit that well as well.
Thanks. Yeah. It was done by, I guess, sort of like a art house in Nashville called Indie Bling. And they submitted a treatment, and it really speaks to what the song is about, Golden Years, which is this idea that, when these formative memories are happening in your life, that a lot of times you're not really like present enough to enjoy them. I got the idea for the song. I was at my parents' house looking at old photos from like prom, or
Yeah,
even
yeah.
mundane stuff about like just sitting around on the couch and it's like you and three of your friends from the neighborhood like playing video games. It's not even like a big moment or something, but you're looking at all these times going like, oh man, that was incredible. Like I had it made then, all the way up into present times too. It's like, but as those moments are happening, you're probably thinking about, this homework thing you got next week or some issue you had with this person that is over here. It's like you're distracted in the moment, and it's hard to really see that what's happening at any given time is, really some of the best moments that you're ever going to have. So that's what the video tries to encapsulate is
Hmm.
these different moments of your life, and trying to take a moment to pause and be present and just enjoy them.
And the people in the video, do you know them, or they were hired actors?
They were hired actors. There's one, the guy who plays the guitar solo in the music video, um, and he's also the dad in the music video. He is the lead guitarist, Evan Penza. But other than him, all hired folks who I didn't meet until we were on set.
Yeah, very natural. It seemed like a natural, and it seems like you enjoyed recording that. So it's good looking video on your YouTube page.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And I did enjoy it. Speaking of the song and whatever, it was like, let's enjoy this. We're making a music video. It's going to be here for forever. If you're enjoying yourself, people are going to see that.
So aside from recording and writing and all of that throughout COVID, how else did you handle it? Did you do those Facebook Live concerts?
I did. I did some shows from my house, just like in my bedroom. I went through each Wigs album and would play songs from that and talk about the songs. That was a little series I did. So yeah, I did those. I was living outside of Nashville at a lake, Center Hill Lake. And I was really in a perfect spot for the pandemic. I was far away from folks, a lot of nature around. So I did a lot of hiking and tried to get into shape. I had been out on the road for a couple of years touring, eating a lot of garbage, not exercising. So yeah, I just embraced the time away from shows. To be honest, I hate saying this because I know that it was a time of great suffering, great sickness, and a lot of sadness and financial hardship and lots of bad things with the pandemic. But for me, it was like one of the best times of my life, one of the best things that ever happened to me. I needed the break. I needed to get off the road and have some time with myself and concentrate on, yeah, wellness and mental wellness, physical wellness, and writing a new record. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, and it definitely shows in the long run. So yeah, I mean, I'd say kudos to you as well. So this is your second solo album, and
Yes, sir.
how many did you have with the Wigs? How many albums did you guys release?
So we did 5 studio albums and 1 live album. So 6 total. So, and then a couple solo albums. So it was my 8th album in a way.
Yeah. How long did the Wigs last? Was that straight out of college during it? How many
Yeah.
years were
So
you?
we started in college 2001, 2002. And then our last album came out in 2016, which was the live album. And we never broke up. So we'll still play a few shows a year. Our bass player plays in Kings of Leon now,
Oh,
has been in their band for a few years. And then our drummer was playing with Eagles of Death Metal, and he plays with Amanda Shires and the Lone Bellow and Karen Elson and Band of Skulls. He plays with all sorts of folks. So they're both still in the game, and who knows what the future holds. Maybe we'll do something together again.
That's great. Yeah, connected with people who are Kings of Leon. Yeah, I remember when they played over here. I think it's State Farm Arena, or maybe it was Phillips back then. Yeah, I totally remember that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, that you're still connected that way. So, what do you hope to do in the future? Do you want to just keep going solo, keep on the same path?
Um, in a perfect world, I would do both the wigs and solo. Little mixture of both. Um, I like writing for other folks as well. I wrote a song with Alice Cooper for his last album, Paranormal. Um, and co-writing is in the in the culture here in Nashville. Um, Most of it's country, so I wish
Hmm.
there were more opportunities to write more rock songs with folks. But yeah, I'd say solo stuff, band stuff, and then writing with other artists.
Yeah. How long have you been in Nashville now?
12 years.
Yeah, it adds up. Yeah,
It
that's
does,
good.
man. It flies. It's crazy.
Good community. Everybody who I speak with from Nashville, they just love it. They feel like this is not LA. We're not like in this crazy competition. Everybody's supportive. It's a good community.
It is. I find myself telling people all the time that, at least for me, I moved here and I loved it originally, but I'd say like the first 3 years, I was sort of like, I don't know. I don't know if this is the place for me, and then, by the time I got to 5 years, I was all in and loved it. And now I love it more every week, every month. I'm super into it. But there was a little bit of like a curve where I had to like get over a hump and then it felt like home.
Yeah, it takes time, and then you get comfortable that way, and you feel like you can thrive in a great community like that. So yeah, kudos, definitely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And once again, where can we find you online? And you're on all the socials, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just my name, which is Parker Gispert, Parker, Gis as in Sam, P as in pizza, ERT. Yeah, parkergispert.com or just Parker Gispert on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. I'm the only one of me. No one else has my name, so that's good. Might be like kind of a weird last name or different, but at least no one else pops up. So yeah, just type me in and I'll come up.
That's good. I bet you have to do that spelling all the time because people are really like, it's not a hard name to say, but yeah, people screw up names all the time. They do mine all the time. It's just like, it's not that hard. Come on.
Yeah, you're Nebel
It's
and then
pronounced,
Bob.
yeah. Not that many letters, not that hard, but people always say Neville, and it's really Nebel. But there's some people with my last name that just go by Nebel. Sometimes I just let it slide. It's so hard to fight that. But yeah, it's so easy how people screw things up.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll get Gispert sometimes. Like people give me sort of like a
You became
little
French.
accent. Yeah, and a lot of times, like you said, it's just easier to not correct people. It's just like whatever.
So true. Well, best wishes. Are you going to be playing in the Atlanta area anytime soon? Do you play Eddie's Attic and places like that?
I do. I actually just played Eddie's about a month ago, and I'm sure I'll be through there this summer. Probably for a full band show, I would say. If I had to guess, maybe one of those Sunset series at Park Tavern this summer. But TBD as of now, Bob.
Yeah, cool. Places that I go to, Park Tavern, all those places. We have the Red Clay Theater up here in Duluth, places like that. So yeah, it's hopefully we could see you. That would be great.
Yeah, I love coming to Atlanta. I get to stay with my parents, see the folks I grew up with. It's always a good time.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks again, Bob. I appreciate it, man.
Have a good one. Peace. Take care.
You too.